One of the most exciting and yet frustrating things about psychology is that you might come up with a great question about why this disorder exists or how do we stop this behavior, but the answer might depend on who you're talking to. Throughout the history of psychology, there's been debate, there's been disagreement about what should constitute, what should compose psychology, and even today, there are a lot of different perspectives that people will choose from when they're giving therapy or when they're doing research. So, this learning outcome will talk about the 7 modern psychological perspectives, and you'll definitely want to do more than just memorize these. You'll definitely want to know what they are, but you'll also want to know the major names associated with several of them. And you'll also want to be able to pick out someone who is using this perspective. So we'll go through these one at a time, and again, your textbook will give you a great deal of information about all of them. The first perspective is the psychodynamic perspective. Now, this is based on the work of Sigmund Freud, and though controversial, he had a very lasting impact on psychology. You've probably heard of his name before. But Sigmund Freud believed that much of psychology, much of who we are, comes from our unconscious. Now, when I say the word consciousness, you're thinking of all the things you're aware of. But Freud thought your unconscious, dreams, feelings, and memories that you have repressed, that you aren't aware of, Freud thought that those actually drove your personality, drove you to do the things that you do. So the psychodynamic perspective is all about helping you express your unconsciousness, helping you resolve conflicts that may exist there. The second perspective is behaviorism. Now, behaviorism is based on the work of many prominent theorists, Pavlov, Watson, Skinner. These are all famous behaviorists. And behaviorists are only really interested in what is directly observable. What can I see? What can I measure? Because you can't really measure the unconsciousness. You're not even aware of it. So a behaviorist wants to look exactly at that, at behavior, what we can observe and what we can measure. The third perspective is based on the work of Rogers and Maslow, and that's humanism. Humanism says that we are all unique individuals and that we can't look at animal research to understand human beings because we are different. We have free will. Human beings can make choices about our experiences, and we'll make different experiences because we are all unique. We're all individuals. So that's humanism, the third perspective. The fourth perspective is the cognitive perspective. Cognitive perspective deals with thoughts, deals with memory, deals with intelligence. All the things that are conscious, but we can't really see them. You can't see a memory, you can't touch intelligence. We can measure those things, but they're not directly observable. So that's the cognitive perspective. The fifth perspective is the biopsychological perspective. Anytime we talk about structures in the brain or parts of your nervous system, neurotransmitters, hormones, anything that has to do with your body is going to be tied to this perspective. And especially in the last few decades, technology has really improved the way we are able to understand how our body, how our brain operates. The sixth perspective is the socio-cultural perspective. This perspective looks at the groups that you identify with. If you identify with a group based on your race, your religion, your sexual identity, your nationality, any characteristic about you that has some identity with the separate group of people. Sociocultural perspective looks at differences between groups, and it also looks at similarities, but it's all about that group identity, that group membership, and how it affects us. The final perspective is the evolutionary perspective. This is also based on the work of Charles Darwin, but specifically, evolutionary psychology will look at why human beings do the things that we do, why we stopped doing things that we used to do that no longer serve a purpose. So the idea is all of those universal human characteristics that all human beings have in common, there's a reason behind that. And evolutionary psychology will try to explore what those reasons are, as well as try to figure out why we've stopped or why we don't do things at all. So those are the 7 major perspectives. Again, psychodynamic, behaviorism, humanism, cognitive, biopsychological, sociocultural, and evolutionary. Definitely know the major names for those that have them. Definitely work with those practice questions until you can tell those apart. These 7 perspectives will play a huge role in every module from here on out. So you definitely want to get a firm grasp of these now so you can apply them to all the concepts we'll learn in the remainder of the course.